In the 4th year of our marriage, I asked Luke for a divorce, claiming he didn't love me anymore. Luke's eyes reddened with anguish as he countered, "When you were 19 and stranded in Vancouver after your passport got stolen, I took the first flight to stay with you. Did I not love you then? At 22, when you were trapped in that landslide, I risked my life flying into the evacuation zone to rescue you. Was that not love?" His words left me speechless for a long moment. He'd loved me fiercely at 19, but I was 29 now. The man who dropped everything to comfort me couldn't have imagined future betrayals. The hero who'd braved disaster zones for me never planned to later scheme with his mistress about their love child. I never doubted his sincerity, only its fleeting nature. 18 My birthday gala. Luke arrived early as always. Before the glittering crowd, he presented an obscenely expensive necklace. "Happy birthday, Evelyn," he murmured, sealing the wish with a kiss. His charismatic smile mirrored the ambitious young man I'd married. Today marked both my birthday and our anniversary. Had I not discovered his secrets, this moment might have felt joyful. "Evelyn," he addressed the guests, arm around my waist, "everything I've built belongs to the woman who stood by me from nothing. Let's continue our journey as we began, together." I forced a gracious smile, swallowing bitterness until my cheeks ached. The moment I turned away, my facade crumbled. This man who'd once adored me, if not for those damning photos from his mistress, I'd never have believed the affairs, or the secret child. Our reckoning would come. I found my father nursing champagne across the ballroom. He'd attended every birthday since Mom died during my 5th year. "Dad," I teased, "Ben mentioned you're swamped with work. Why fly back overnight for this?" His gaze softened like I was still his little girl. "Watching you grow into this remarkable woman remains my life's pride. I wouldn't miss your milestones." We both glanced at Luke holding court across the room. "You always had good judgment," Dad mused. "I fought against your marriage, thinking him unworthy. Proved me wrong, didn't he?" My smile turned brittle. "You gave me freedom to choose, to succeed or fail on my terms. That's the greatest gift." He nodded, mistaking my words for sentimental reflection. Later, hushed sobs drew me to the lounge where society wives clustered around Mrs. Bennet. "Why?" the former power couple icon wept. "We were childhood sweethearts. The perfect match. Now he's abandoning everything, even most assets, to run off with that." I lingered in the shadows. Their tragic love story had once filled tabloids. Now Mr. Bennet preferred scandalous exile over their gilded life. "At least he's being generous financially," someone offered weakly. Mrs. Bennet's diamond bracelet caught the light as she wiped tears. "But I'd have changed anything. Why humiliate us publicly?" Her anguish echoed through the marble room, a requiem for dying vows. I walked over. Mrs. Bennet saw me, her tear-streaked face looking rather disheveled. "Evelyn, I truly envy you," she choked out. "You come from privilege. Excel in every way. Luke rose to prominence through your unwavering support. He'll forever cherish your contributions. Never betray you." I knew what she implied. Her bitter marriage lacked the fairy tale loyalty she imagined in mine. "Take what's rightfully yours," I advised calmly. "Marriage is like an apple, perfect on the outside but sometimes rotten within. You never know what's inside until you cut it open. No one's life deserves blind envy. We all carry hidden burdens." My gaze drifted to the window. My own marriage, it's been decaying from within for years. After washing up, I stood before the vanity scrolling through messages from Sophie, Luke's mistress. The latest read, "Evelyn, you should bow out gracefully. Yes, you two loved each other once, but that era ended long ago. I know your family's powerful and I can't compete with your influence. But marriage isn't about dominance, it's about affection. He chooses me now. Your stubbornness changes nothing." Her selfie confirmed youth's cruel advantage, 22. Dewy-skinned. In the bloom of youth. Pity about the vacant eyes betraying her stupidity. When Luke materialized behind me, playfully covering my eyes to lead me to the collection room, I indulged his charade. 3 new antique wedding gowns gleamed under museum lighting, including Princess Margaret's iconic 1960s Norman Hartnell creation, ivory silk preserved flawlessly. Diamonds still winking like captured starlight. "You've finally completed the display," Luke murmured, arm encircling my waist. His breath warmed my temple. That princess lived happily ever after, grew old with her prince. Raised perfect children. My sudden laugh froze him mid-performance. Why? I whispered, rising on tiptoes until my lips brushed his ear. He moved to embrace me. But I stepped back as I delivered the blade. If we grow old together. Luke, what becomes of your precious Sophie? The mask shattered. For the first time in our decade together. Genuine shock contorted his features. Evelyn. I silenced him with photographs raining across his face. One edge caught his brow. Beating blood as images of his hotel trysts fluttered to the floor. He crouched. Trembling fingers retrieving evidence of his betrayal. Explain. My voice held arctic calm. Through his frantic apologies, I love you. It meant nothing. I searched his obsidian eyes for remnants of the man I'd built empires with. Found only skilled desperation. When his fingers brushed mine in pleading, I recoiled. The diamond-laden gowns suddenly reeked of formaldehyde. Beautiful corpses under glass. Luke Grant's eyes were filled with despair. You can hit me. Yell at me. Do whatever you want, just let's talk this through. I'll accept any consequences as long as you don't divorce me. Not divorce? I stared at him calmly. You mean I should just tolerate this? Right? No. Luke roared like a madman. Veins bulging in his neck. Evelyn. You can doubt everything else about me. But my love for you has never been fake. Can't you see how much I adore you? I know I messed up. I was trying to fix it privately because our marriage means everything to me, but you found out before I could. His apologies spilled out in desperate repetition until the words blurred together. For a moment, I felt strangely detached, remembering how he'd once repeated I love you with that same fervor during our happiest days. When did our marriage start rotting from within? As someone who'd always taken pride in my judgment, I never imagined regretting my choices. I'd been so confident in my ability to nurture relationships. Yet here I stood, blindsided by reality. Turning away. I wiped escaping tears. The grief was natural, I'd loved deeply. But sentiment wouldn't sway me. Evelyn. Let me explain, it was an accident. Luke pleaded. I was drunk that night. My judgment impaired by alcohol and cold medicine. She came on to me when I couldn't. Enough. My sneer cut through his excuses. Stop dressing up infidelity with pretty words. The rot starts with you, don't blame others. Let's divorce. The 3 words left me as Luke crumpled against the wall, sliding down to kneel on the floor. I won't accept this. His broken posture suddenly resurrected memories of our wedding at 25. My father had initially opposed our union. Our family had built generations of wealth in Port City. Dad never pressured me to marry, even saying I could remain childless if it meant true happiness. Back then, Luke had been the scrappy self-made man. We'd met at 19 in Berlin's university halls, him a scholarship student working 3 jobs. Me the sheltered heiress following parental expectations. Those brutal academic years bonded us, among our class of international students. Only 10 avoided failing, the 2 of us being the sole Chinese survivors. After graduation, we returned to Port City together. I assumed family duties while Luke launched his tech startup. Contrary to popular belief, he wasn't penniless when we wed. His undergraduate ventures had already gained traction, making him a rising star in our city's compact business scene. But no achievement ever satisfied my father's protective standards. I lost count of the battles fought before Dad finally relented to our marriage at 25. Now, merely 4 years later, Evelyn, I'll agree to anything except divorce. Luke knelt like a penitent, voice raw. I swear on my life, never again. If I ever hurt you like this, don't. I bent to retrieve a damning photo, Luke smiling genuinely while shopping for baby clothes with Sophie Quinn. He'd always wanted children. The orphanage-raised man often spoke of building the family he'd never had. Just as I yearned to recreate the maternal love cancer stole from me. We'd planned to adopt eventually. though careers kept postponing it. Look closely. I thrust the photo forward. And tell me that joy was fake. Unbeknownst to me, Luke had also given his tenderness and promises to another girl. I desperately wanted that child. But I never imagined someone would destroy our family. Sophie promised me she'd leave the country after giving birth. Instead of arguing with Luke, I pulled out a pregnancy test report from my bag. I looked directly at him. Did you know? We could have had everlasting happiness. The baby was confirmed 2 days ago. I planned to surprise you today for our anniversary. My voice hardened. Luke, you're not the only one capable of love. You're not the only one who cherished our marriage. Luke clutched the ultrasound report, his composure shattering. Evelyn, don't be cruel. Let's stay together. I'll make it up to you, anything you want. Anything at all. Anything? My tone turned glacial. Then I want divorce. Full assets to me. Agree or not? Prove your love if you mean it. We'll sign a postnuptial agreement right now. His voice shook. I'll transfer everything to you. I'll cut ties with that woman. Make her terminate the pregnancy. Just give me another chance. Sign it then. I smiled bitterly. But even after you surrender everything, I'll still divorce you. You'll still leave with nothing. Despair etched across Luke's features. No other way? None. I pronounced our relationship's death sentence. Fine. His eyes glistened with emotion. If this brings you peace, I consent. Evelyn, I won't pressure you. We'll divorce with me taking nothing. Just promise we can meet again, that you'll let me court you properly someday. I turned away without answering. At the doorway, I glanced back one last time. File the papers quickly. No delays. Once everything's legal, we proceed. In Hong Kong, divorces require court adjudication unlike the administrative process in other regions. Even with mutual consent, we faced 12 grueling months of mandatory separation. I couldn't risk any complications derailing this. Luke, I warned coldly. If you interfere with the proceedings, I'll destroy you publicly. His broken whisper followed me out. Do you truly think me that vile? I keep my word. Evelyn. Never would I hurt you again. Back home, I collapsed on the bed, finally releasing 3 days' worth of anguish through wrenching sobs. The betrayal's freshness didn't negate my resolve. Some fractures couldn't be mended. Tears were catharsis, not defeat. My life overflowed with purpose beyond romance, passions, career, self-discovery. Love should enhance existence, not devour it. When relationships turned toxic, I walked away. 2 days later, I scheduled the termination procedure en route to work. As my car pulled up, Sophie came charging through the corporate plaza, security barely intercepting her lunge. Evelyn, you psychotic bitch. Her scream attracted swarming paparazzi, flashes erupting like machine gun fire. I inhaled deeply, facing my husband's mistress. Sophie snarled through barred teeth, you're insane. There's no love left, yet you still want his money. There's no such thing as leaving with nothing in the law anymore. Yet you still want Luke to surrender all his assets. You may have wealth, influence, and powerful backers. Maybe you once gave him a leg up. But that's ancient history. Luke built his empire through his own sweat and grit. Not because he married into a privileged family. Do you have any idea how many years and how much blood he poured into this? You're delusional if you think he'll hand it all over just because you're weaponizing his guilt over your affair. I almost laughed at Sophie's audacity, glancing at the reporters circling us like vultures. Her public meltdown had just outed herself as the mistress to the entire city. This is a private matter between my husband and me. Who do you think you are? Barging in like this? Save the theatrics, Luke would never agree to your ridiculous demands. Sophie's porcelain face twisted with spite, her pregnancy doing nothing to dim her youthful beauty. 22 years old. Prime years wasted on scheming. Maybe she saw him as a lottery ticket. Maybe she genuinely believes this twisted version of love. Either way, it doesn't excuse destroying a marriage. She probably thought stealing him with a baby was some masterstroke. But showing up here? A fatal miscalculation. I'd left her an escape route. She chose to burn it. If the guilty keep flaunting their sins, they haven't paid enough. My mistake was showing mercy. That ends today. Her designer purse slammed into my thigh as I stepped back. You greedy witch! She spat. Venom dripping. You'll choke on every penny. Luke would never let you. I'm carrying his child. He adores kids. You heartless. On and on she ranted, her youth. Her beauty. Their true love. The pregnancy. For flimsy cards. Endlessly reshuffled. Pathetic. All the assets in the world can't fix a bankrupt mind. I strode into Clark Pharmaceuticals' lobby, head high under the stairs. When Ms. Brooks' team arrives for the contract signing, I told the receptionist. Escort them directly to the VIP suite. No calls, use the internal line. 2 assistants emerged from the elevator. Prep the clinical trial reports for the 3 p.m. board meeting. I instructed. Snatching a coffee en route. As the largest pharmaceutical conglomerate in Harbor City, we had new drugs entering FDA review, health certifications to renew, and partnerships with global labs to oversee. My days were a blur of contracts, lab visits, and investor pitches. Nights? Strategy sessions. The world doesn't stop for heartbreak. Love matters, but never more than my legacy. Failed deals. Flawed formulas. Botched product launches, losses are inevitable. This? Just another lesson. By midnight, I pulled into my penthouse driveway. No surprise finding Luke there, he'd blown up my phone the entire drive. Evelyn. I'm so sorry. He blurted. Guilt etched into his tired face. Back-to-back overseas calls all day. Those headlines, Sophie's lies, I'm honoring the prenup. Every word I said in court stands. She means nothing. I cut him off. Save it. I've had 12 hours of budget reviews and FDA audits. We're done here. As I turned, his hand gripped my arm, then he pulled me into an embrace. He buried his face in my shoulder. Would you terminate the pregnancy? Evelyn, would you terminate our child? What do you think? I almost laughed. Why would I keep it? Hot tears dripped onto my shoulder. In that moment, I wanted to believe Luke's remorse was genuine. But how long would this guilt last? Luke. I didn't push him away. Keeping my tone professional. Is the marital asset transfer agreement drafted? Have you signed the voluntary relinquishment of all joint assets? Have your lawyer finalize everything and send the documents to my secretary? As I disentangled myself, I marveled at human fickleness. This fleeting guilt was precisely why I needed to act fast. My family's inheritance dwarfed his net worth. But that didn't mean I'd let 10 years go uncompensated. 3 company crises since his sophomore year. My capital injections. My connections. My relentless support. Had I invested that energy elsewhere, I'd still be wealthy. Taking his assets felt like collecting overdue payment. Naive heiresses might forgive. Not me. When Luke embraced me earlier, it wasn't nostalgia that stayed my hand. The miniature recorder I slipped into his pocket did. Now I sipped my milk, listening to the transmitted argument. Sophie, why humiliate me? I told you our connection ends with the child. Why meddle in my affairs with Evelyn? I'm protecting you. That viper cares more about money than you. Since when do you decide how I handle my assets? She'll leave you destitute. Our baby needs security. Sophie's voice turned tearful. Rebuilding from scratch? You know how hard it was reaching parity with these old money dynasties. The economic climate's changed, you can't regain this wealth in years. Let alone months. I smirked as silence followed. The guilt was fading already. Most people's remorse evaporates once consequences loom. Mrs. Bennet arrived Sunday evening, dripping in jewels. Our social circles overlapped minimally, yet her barely concealed schadenfreude perfumed the air. Evelyn dear. Who'd imagine Luke cheating? You of all people, her pity rang hollow. We reconciled. She abruptly changed subjects. True love endures. My husband's promise to. I tuned out the gloating. Some women enjoy others' misfortunes as balm for their own. Not my concern. My recorder kept transmitting Sophie's shrill voice. Luke's wavering resolve. The clock ticked on his dwindling conscience. This was already the third time you'd tearfully confided in our social circle about Mr. Bennet's infidelity. With media outlets now exposing his multiple mistresses and illegitimate children, I stated these facts calmly to Mrs. What? Mrs. Bennet's voice suddenly sharpened. Evelyn, wasn't your husband also unfaithful? Didn't his affair with that young girl dominate the tabloids for weeks? How exactly is your situation better than mine? The venom in her tone crystallized the contempt she'd always hidden. Finally, the mask slipped. I met her gaze without speaking, waiting. Evelyn, she resumed with relish. Even someone as accomplished as you, the perpetual object of envy, even you couldn't escape marital betrayal. But I've always said perfection doesn't exist. Your charmed life is just as fractured as mine. They've compared us for years, but now it's clear, I'm the fortunate one. My husband swore this would never happen again. You? Your marriage is unsalvageable. I signaled the housekeeper to escort her out. Mrs. Bennet left with triumphant disdain. Today marked our irrevocable rupture. I felt no grief. Our friendship had always been transactional. Her endless rivalry existed only in her mind. No one compared her to others. She manufactured competitions to feed her insecurities. Cheaters never reform, she knows this, but her combative pride overrides logic. We've all warned her, counseled her, fulfilled every obligation. She chooses blindness. Whatever comes next is hers to bear. When I met Luke, the change was palpable. Sophie's confrontation had worked. Gone was the performative tenderness. His gaze held. Resolve now. Evelyn, is there truly no chance for us? I shook my head. He laughed bitterly after a long silence. Because I strayed once, we must destroy everything? Must we wait for greater catastrophes to justify divorce? I loathe this willful ignorance. You don't love me, not truly. His bloodshot eyes didn't sway me. Real love excludes third parties. When you were 19, his voice cracked. Stranded in Vancouver after your passport was stolen. I took the red-eye flight despite my thesis defense. 22, trapped under that landslide for 30 hours? I flew into an active disaster zone when even locals evacuated. Was that not love? Memories surfaced, 19 and undefined between us. I'd called him from Vancouver, minimizing my panic to avoid burdening him. Yet he deciphered my distress through static, abandoning everything to help. Weeks of transatlantic shuttling left him gaunt. But he juggled my crisis and his crumbling academic deadlines. At 22, I'd awakened in rubble to find him, filthy, bleeding, having defied evacuation orders. Why risk your life? I'd sobbed. He'd simply held me. We'd loved fiercely once. How then could the man who'd braved landslides now father children with others? The protector who'd endangered himself for me now endangers everything for cheap thrills. The dissonance hollowed me. Emotions truly are fragile things. Time is equally merciless, eroding even the most solid foundations. Evelyn, don't I love you? Luke's tear-filled eyes met mine. We've known each other for 10 years. Loved each other for 10 years. Through all we've endured. Through every sacrifice. I clenched my jaw against the rising bitterness. Is there anything else you need to say? I won't relive our history with you. Nostalgia only made present betrayals more absurd. Past vows more foolish. Promises hold power only when love exists, meaningless once certain lines are crossed. What good were years of love when we've arrived here? Let's focus on the asset division. Luke inhaled sharply. The consummate businessman re-emerging. Evelyn, let's revisit the settlement. 10 years, my prime years, weren't your exclusive sacrifice. My career built over this decade, you can't realistically claim everything. My heart hardened. Businessmen prioritize ledgers over hearts, him. Me. All of us. Guilt's fleeting power had made him pliant during our initial confrontation. But days later, self-preservation prevailed. So much for ID give you everything. Where's that love now? My laugh held edges. These are separate matters. He countered, placing a miniature listening device on the table. Don't tarnish what we had with cheap tactics. I tossed the gadget into the trash. Familiar technology, isn't it? Developed by Grant Industries. If I recall. My smile sharpened. You're the one turning us into a joke today. His composure cracked when I stumbled. Dizziness striking. Low blood sugar? Did you eat? Don't. I shoved his concerned hands away. Is there truly no way back? Raw desperation colored his question. What about Sophie then? My bitter chuckle hung between us. Would you abandon her and the child so easily? For you. Yes. The admission nearly made me laugh. Let him cling to that fantasy. Across town, Sophie's barrage began the moment Luke left, frowny face still gloating. You'll get neither his fortune nor half. Your greed destroyed your last chance. I archived each venomous text. Dialing my private investigator. Dig deeper on Sophie's background. Darkness exists in gradients, her actions revealed more than enough ammunition. The dirt on people like him is almost too easy to dig up. I sat in my room for hours. From daylight to darkness and through the wee hours of morning. Thinking through countless scenarios. Since they'd chosen to play good cop and bad cop, one flaunting their victory in my face while the other ice cold, I saw no reason to part ways amicably anymore. I hadn't meant to destroy him completely initially. Just wanted Lucas Grant to pay some dues. He'd been right about one thing, I'd only taken his money. His connections and experience remained intact. With his pristine credit and banking relationships. Securing loans and rallying investors would have been simple enough. A temporary setback at worst. He could have rebuilt everything given time. But no, he had to listen to Sophie Quinn. Had to preserve assets for that unborn bastard. Then he had the audacity to show up here today. Fine. If this is how they want it, let's make the breakup spectacular. Love isn't truly compelling until it's utterly ruined. Might as well go nuclear. At 9 a.m. sharp. I summoned my assistant Jess home and handed her my phone. Call Luke. Tell him I've been crying nonstop since he left. Refusing food. And just collapsed. Her eyes lit up with glee as she sprang into action. That's my girl, years of reading my micro-expressions made her Oscar-worthy. Jess put the call on speaker. Embroidering my script with dramatic flourishes. MS. Clark won't touch anything? Luke's voice crackled through. No. Sir. The housekeepers tried everything. Then cycle through different chefs. If one's cooking doesn't work. It's not about the food. Sir. She fainted. I'm terrified she might. Jess let her voice break artfully. I'm scared MS. Clark could, you know. Stay calm. I'm coming over. Background noise interrupted as someone protested about contract reviews and signing ceremonies. Luke dismissed them brusquely. Cancel my appearances. Handle it. Jess. I snapped when she hung up. Who told you to call him? Enjoy humiliating me further? She blinked. Then caught on instantly. With renewed theatrics. She pleaded. MS. Clark. Please. Think of the baby. You can't. I smashed my favorite ceramic mug against the wall. Hang up now. I'd rather die than have you contact that. Jess terminated the call and grinned. That was amazing. Best acting gig ever. What's next? Can I transferred $10,000 to her account. Stick around. Improvise as needed. The bitterness in my chest wasn't entirely feigned. I'd become what I once despised, a cliché-scorned woman. The realization stung more than expected. Maybe the emotional whiplash triggered it. But genuine tears began spilling as physical discomfort mounted. Luke arrived swiftly. When he entered, I hurled my phone at him. Venom dripping. What's your torrid affair with Sophie got to do with me? Even if you loathe me, must you let every stray cat kick me while I'm down? Am I just trash to you? Sobs wrecked my speech as he picked up the device, scrolling through Sophie's gloating texts. He steadied me during my meltdown. Evelyn, why didn't you tell me she contacted you? Tell you? So you'd punish her? Pity me? Just die. Both of you. Rot together forever. I shoved him away. 10 years meant nothing? Since when do outsiders get to dissect our marriage? The anguish wasn't all acting. Every accusation burned with authenticity. Pain breeds stupid questions. Why don't you love me anymore? How did we get here? Pathetic, yet effective against residual affection. Luke sat on the edge of my bed, pulling me into his embrace. I struggled free and slapped him across the face. Luke. I spat. Do you know why I want every last penny you own? Because I refuse to accept this. How could we end up here? I'll take everything from you. Do you think I need your money? But I'll claim it anyway. How dare our love rot away while you parade around with Sophie? You moved on. Fine, but why must you torture me? My voice cracked. When my father opposed our relationship, I defended you every single time. I swore I'd choose you over anyone. Did you laugh at my foolishness then? When I introduced you to every influential contact in my circle. When I shielded you from scrutiny at social events. When I stayed up night after night helping you in your office, did you think me an idiot for pouring everything into building you up? Luke. I choked out. You claimed you'd die for me. Well, what about my love? Was it lesser? 5 years ago when you were framed, I begged favors from every corner and hired top attorneys to clear your name. Was that not love? I've nurtured your career like my own. Exhausted myself solving your problems. Tell me, wasn't that enough? My final words tore from my throat in a scream. I pushed against his chest, but he clung tighter. I'm sorry, Evelyn. Luke wept, his tears dampening my hair. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. You're the proudest woman I know. Had I realized sooner, I'd never have let her send those messages. Wouldn't you? I laughed bitterly, struggling to breathe. Where were you when she humiliated me? You came to declare I deserved nothing. Evelyn. His grip tightened desperately. Give me one more chance. I'll cut all ties with Sophie. I'll make her terminate the pregnancy. I swear you'll never see her again. Please, don't throw away our baby and 10 years together. Let's stay married. Please, his begging voice cracked like a supplicant's. I said nothing. Didn't push him away. The silence became acquiescence. If Sophie thought she could build her happiness on my ruins, she'd soon learn otherwise. I'd planned to take only the money, leaving Luke free to play house with his mistress. They could have had their happily ever after if she'd been willing to endure lean years beside him. But she couldn't stomach financial insecurity. So she pushed Luke to scheme against me. Now she'd pay. The doctor called while Luke stirred soup in the kitchen. MS. Clark. You missed today's abortion appointment. Shall we cancel? No cancellation. I answered calmly. My secretary will reschedule. Once. I'd ached for Luke's child. Now fate's timing mocked me. A week later, Luke accompanied my first prenatal visit. He glowed with excitement while I sat numb. Exhaustion claimed me during the drive home. I feigned sleep as he carried me inside, too weary to protest. That evening, when he offered me red date soup, I retched violently. Luke wiped my face without flinching. Some water. Evelyn? I met his anxious gaze. What if there were no baby? Even then, he vowed, I'd beg your forgiveness. I'd erase Sophie from my life. I love you. I turned away. Empty promises required no response. Next morning, Luke fussed over me en route to the office. As my car stopped, security wrestled a shrieking figure, Sophie. Evelyn Clark. She screamed, mascara streaking her face. What lies did you feed Luke? He forced me to abort our baby. Are you happy now? Why don't you die? Luke shielded me, his voice glacial. Restrain this lunatic. He didn't bother to hide his disdain, his eyes devoid of any warmth. As I watched him, it finally dawned on me, this man approaching his 30s carried no genuine affection in his heart. Or perhaps he'd long outgrown the phase where love held significance. When he cheated, I'd assumed he'd fallen for someone else. When he schemed against me for his illegitimate child, I thought he truly cared about Sophie. But now it's clear, he loves no one but himself. He kept Sophie around because she could give him the child he wanted. Now that he believes I'm willing to salvage our marriage, he no longer needs her. So that's how it is. Emptiness proves more terrifying than passion. The Luke of today loves no one, he simply takes what he desires. Watching Sophie unravel like a madwoman brought me no satisfaction. I'd never considered her worthy of my attention, her provocations never wounded me. Her downfall never amused me. She was never worth my contempt. I'd initially planned to ignore her. But she insisted on provoking me. Those who climb by stepping on others must pay the price. Had she been smarter, she'd have lived quietly after getting what she wanted. Instead of flaunting stolen victories and sneering at me publicly. Basing your entire future on a man and a child? Pathetic. Losing it all becomes child's play with that mindset. Luke was scheduled for a week-long business trip to Berlin. Before leaving, he pointedly asked if I'd join him to revisit old memories. I stopped typing and closed my laptop. No. I'm not feeling well. Returning to familiar places is like carving marks on a moving boat, the Berlin we visit remains. But the past stays gone. Better to let it lie. At his insistence, I drove him to the airport. His employees and business partners had arrived earlier. Envious eyes followed us as we entered. The Grants are so devoted. Someone murmured. No wonder Mr. Grant arrived late, someone's keeping him anchored. Luke grinned. Triumph radiating from him. Exactly. Unlike you lonely souls. When our child arrives, you'd better prepare hefty gifts. After leaving the airport, I filed divorce papers and began the unilateral separation process. My assistant Jess waited outside when I finished. Exhausted, I tossed her my keys. You drive. To the hospital. She'd rescheduled my abortion for today, the same day Luke flew abroad. Confident about sealing his deal. This wasn't revenge. Just closure. I'd never intended to keep this child. Everything tied to Luke would be purged from my life. When he finally loses everything, he'll realize how merciful my original demand for him to leave penniless had been. But he chose to stand with Sophie against me instead. Back then, at least he still had her and their child. Now, he'll have nothing. Evelyn. Jess updated me as we drove. Sophie had a breakdown recently. She nearly stormed Luke's press conference. He had her committed to an overseas psychiatric facility, officially for treatment. The results she gave me matched what the private investigator provided. Since both aligned, it confirmed the truth. Lucas Grant had never mentioned this to me, likely to protect his pristine image and reputation. But I intended to expose everything precisely when he was away from his power base. I handed the USB drive to Jess, instructing her to deliver it to Harbor City Times reporters. The drive contained timelines and evidence of Luke's affair with Sophia Quinn, documentation of his unethical tactics to eliminate business rivals, and those provocative messages Sophie had sent me. Every piece of damning evidence was accounted for. I didn't fear collateral damage to my reputation, the wrongdoing had never been mine. If Luke and Sophie rejected an amicable resolution, they'd forced this nuclear option. When Luke flew back from overseas, His trademark confidence had evaporated. I calmly handed him copies of the abortion report and divorce papers, meeting his gaze steadily. So this is all payback, Evelyn, he choked out, face crumbling. You destroy me over this. Not payback, I countered, unblinking. His tears meant nothing now. Why take it this far? What do you gain? His voice cracked. That was our child. How could you be so heartless? Plenty of men stray, he pleaded desperately. No one stays devoted forever. My father did. That's rare. Then why couldn't you be rare? The words hung between us like shattered glass. I wanted love untainted by betrayal, not his pathetic attempts to normalize infidelity through false equivalency. Commonality didn't equate to absolution. I've filed for divorce. My tone burped. No negotiation. I don't need your pity to secure what's mine. We might have avoided this had you honored our initial agreement, Evelyn. Don't do this. He moved to embrace me, but I stepped back sharply. Don't touch me. To me now. He was merely a stranger wearing my past lover's face. I'd loved him not because he deserved it, but because I chose to. That choice had expired. As I walked away, leaving him stranded in the downpour, the finality settled like winter frost. Some battles required scorched earth tactics. When personal appeals failed, the courts would decide. During our morning commute, Jess tuned the radio to gossip channels buzzing about the Bennett's divorce scandal. Mr. Bennett had faked reconciliation to siphon assets abroad with his mistress, leaving Mrs. Bennett financially gutted. She'd ignored warnings to secure her interests, dismissing concerned friends as mockers. Now she stood empty-handed, a cautionary tale about hesitation. I felt no schadenfreude, only cold clarity. Sentimentality bankrupts. If love falters, claim what endures. When affection dies, take the money. November drizzle misted Harbor City as I opened my umbrella. 10 years dissolved in the gray. All endings are messy. The trick is choosing which mess to keep. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more exciting stories. And drop your thoughts on this one in the comments. See you next time.